dear friend and colleague, our deacon from St Andrew Presbyterian Church, who will represent our interfaith council, forward to share a few words.
If I do this right tonight, we're going to laugh a little bit, we're going to cry a little bit, and as it says here in the middle of page 251, that God's going to sow a little light in us on this hopeful night. I've always wanted to say this, shalom, share shalom. I come to you today very humbled because our dear Rabbi Steve has asked me, a Gentile, to come before you during this Holy Week to share with you at Yom Kippur. And I'm going to read on script tonight because if I went off, we'd be here all night. My name's Ken Blackwood. I'm a deacon up at St Andrew Church up in Glen Ellen. And I'm also your neighbor. I live just a couple blocks away. I chose to drive, but I could have easily walked. I'm here today because I think the good rabbi knows that I might know a few things about forgiveness and atonement. But before I get too far down that road, I did a little homework the other night, and I wanted to start by wishing you all an easy fast and Gemar Shatima Tova. Sorry about my Hebrew. I know it's horrible. Even though I grew up in Philadelphia where it seemed like everybody was Jewish, or at least tried to be. I mean, all the cool kids had a Star of David pennant. So what's the tie-in? Why me and why today? Well, I met up with Steve a few days ago and I looked around this room and I saw the chapters of the story of Moses, the Exodus, and I didn't really see the link, I didn't get it between me and any of that until I fell on the passage in Exodus where Moses says, "No, Lord, don't send me." And there it was. Moses and I share that horrible, cursed, defective character that we're very good at making excuses when asked to do things that are outside of our comfort zone, even when God's doing the asking. Quite simply, when God calls, I look for an immediate way to weasel out of it. And there it was. When St. Andrew asked me to become a member, I said no. When they asked me to become a chaperone for the youth ministry, I said no. When asked to become a deacon, again, I said no way. And the worst one of all, when a good friend of mine was dying of leukemia, I became cold, indifferent, and I disappeared from that person's life. I am a member of the church now. I've led kids on many, many service missions across the U.S. And I'm also a deacon of the grief and loss ministry up at St. Andrew now. And it took me getting leukemia a couple of years ago to unharden my heart so that when God says, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" That I know I better raise up my hand as much as I don't want to and say, "Send me." And here I am tonight. So in that journey, what changed? Well, it was about 10 years ago when I woke up one day and I realized that I had a family, children, a job, and a life that no longer pleased me. I had become a daily blackout drinker. I had lost my self-esteem. I'd become very selfish and paranoid. And I made it worse with uncontrollable rage, anger issues. And this paints a pretty lovely picture of a broken man. And that's me. Then came the conspiracy. The conspiracy was my wife, my pastor, and a therapist all colluded. They ganged up on me and they advised me to change my behavior or suffer the consequences. So I started going to church, attending anger management classes, modifying my drinking, and none of it worked. None of it worked. I was living the lie and making excuses because I had lost the power to change. Quite frankly, I've been told I was beyond human help. Even my health had started to deteriorate. I found out I had artery disease and a failing liver, and I did nothing about it. I even let my health insurance lapse. But realistically, I just wanted people to get off my back. So I did things to try to get them off my back, and that did not work. So again, what really changed? In January 2015, after a major infraction, which is why I cannot run for city council, I was guilted into starting a program of recovery that was spiritual in nature. And one random day, I heard somebody else telling my story. Another man was telling my story. And I'd finally found the catalyst for change. And it came by hearing someone else who was just like me, all the same issues. And hearing that surrendering to the concepts of prayer, meditation, insane self-evaluation, honesty, and atonement could, as the song says, save a wretch like me. They had it all laid out for me. Get rid of the resentments and fears of the past, the anger of today, and the anxieties of tomorrow. And the real kicker, make direct amends to the people who I've harmed in my life. Well, isn't that what we're all being asked to do today and for the new year ahead? To clean our side of the street, perhaps, to forgive freely, to make actual restitution, maybe without ever getting it back in return. So yeah, that's the real theme of what I'm talking about today, atonement, making amends, realistically taking the concrete steps to change the things that kept me out of the book of life pretty much for a very, very long portion of my life. And see, I lost my page. Isn't that just the kicker right there? All right, it's somewhere in here. Okay, got it. So realistically, what did I do? People always ask me, well, how did you do it? Well, I listened to what needed to be changed from other people. I didn't come up with any of this stuff on my own. But what I have now is the God-given strength to carry it out. You know, I have power back in my life, that choice. Accepting the one-sidedness of it all has been the greatest challenge of all. Today, it's been 8 years, 8 months, 4 days, 16 hours, and 23, 4, 5 seconds, but who's counting? Since I started down this path, and I feel like I've left absolutely nothing unsaid. I've forgiven every person against whom I formerly had a resentment. I've sought out people far and wide, old girlfriends included, and told them I was wrong. How can I make things right with you? And in prayer, I've even told God I was wrong. How can I make things right with you? Boy, some days I wish he'd just make it easy on me and give me a burning bush moment, you know, some place where I can just surrender and follow his will blindly, you know, but it doesn't work that way for me. I've always been way too afraid to listen too closely. I've always feared that God would give me a tambourine, shave my head, and send me down to SFO or someplace and make me beg for money, you know. That was, but the God of my understanding doesn't betray my faith in him. He rewards it. He puts people like Rabbi Steve, Yaffa in my path. They get me to come on the radio and talk about forgiveness. You know, God gives me shalom, and we talk about connecting at a soul level. God gives me Mark and Amy. Our kids grew up in the charter school system, and God gives me Richard. He's in our book club. Wow, I'm blessed. Surrounded by your great love, I set foot in your house today. I read that. That's a great way to look at life. To wrap up and bestow a blessing on you all here today, I thought we could look forward to bringing the spirit of Yom Kippur into our daily lives. And that we ask God every night as I do, how well have I measured up? And if it pleases you, Lord, may it be so. Amen.